Hi, I'm John Myatt. I'm the CTO and Director of Product Management for the Infrastructure Division of Imagine Communications.
I'm Peyton Thomas. I'm a KAIROS Solutions Engineer for Panasonic Connect.
And I'm Mike Bergeron, and happy to be here with John and Peyton to talk about KAIROS implementation and how it's been working with the Imagine Communication products. Particularly a lot of what we've been seeing is the Selenio SNP, which is, as I describe it to people, it's your 2110 network in a box.
Well, pretty much true, and thanks for having me here this morning. At Imagine, we've made infrastructure products for television for years and years and years. We're the company that was once called Leach. And as we've rolled out SMPTE 2110, we've moved all the things that we historically did in little boxes and in little widgets into a network-attached, network-based processing unit that can do, whatever you throw at it. So does multi-viewing and does format conversion, does all kinds of stuff. But in conjunction with KAIROS, we use it a lot of times as an input, an on-ramp and out-ramp, converting SDI signals, whether HD, UHD, 1080p, into 2110 to feed KAIROS and taking the KAIROS outputs back out into the SDI domain where necessary. And on each of those paths, we can also provide color adjustment, camera shading kind of adjustment, and take HDR conversions and things into that processing chain. So you really get a lot of functionality along the wire on the way into the KAIROS, and the ability to also do conversions or other things on the way back out. Now, SNP is a high-density unit, so it has 100 gig interfaces out the back, 32 SDI connections out into the plant, and we have a lot of projects where one's enough, and people will actually hook SNP directly to KAIROS. We had a great example of this at NEP Creative Technologies, where they did a nice, simple KAIROS and SNP direct connect fiber, and works like a champ. It's a great example of a very low effort 2110 system. There's 2110 on that IP connection, but it's just hooked up and working. And we have a number of examples of that around the world where people are using SNP directly connected to KAIROS. Main and Protect works fantastic.
Yeah, I think another great example of that is Cottonwood Creek.
Yep.
And it's great for the house of worship market to kind of get their foot in the door with 2110 by using our direct connection straight from the KAIROS to
Oh, absolutely.
the SNP.
And that's a great example too. It's a house of worship generating a early successful deployment where all the stakeholders can be bought in on the technology and that everything's working and develop enough understanding to do successful productions every week. And then over time, things grow. And Cottonwood's a great example of things grow. We have a nice picture of them, but they're a fantastic group of people to work with. They started out, like you say, as a simple direct connect, did a bunch of weeks there, and then after a while they're like, oh, we need some more cameras, we need some more this, and they dropped a switch in there and a second KAIROS, I think, and another SNP, and suddenly it's a pretty big production they're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, how'd that work out? Are they flying the two switchers, lots of cameras?
Yeah, well, so with multicast, being able to now even take feeds from their, they have another chapel area, they have overflow rooms, they're able to feed all of their signals and sources and destinations straight from the SNP directly into the system, feed both of their video switchers and be able to handle all their feeds.
Right, and that's the goal, right? That's entirely why we built SNP, why we built SMPTE 2110 as an infrastructure, is to let people do simple things and grow them gradually. If they had to spring for a big enough router on the first day, they probably wouldn't have done it. But being able to start small, grow incrementally, grow it as you use it, learn it while you're using it, and yet do successful show day after day, week after week.
It's helped with the KAIROS discussion too, because we're asking people to develop a new way to think about how they're managing their content, how they're building their content with the layer-based systems and the software-based and getting away from a typical ME architecture. And then at the same time, for them to start to figure out a 2110 network. It's too much for a lot of people to do that all at once. When we start in with the single SNP with a direct connect, the 2110 is transparent to them, and it's there, but if it's need to know, right?
Yeah, exactly. You put the stuff in the rack and it's working. 99% of people don't want to know what's behind the rack, and that's just as well, right? Build the system, it's all fantastic, but that ability to say, oh, you want some more cameras, do this, drop this in, boop, 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 that just works. And that's the magical part, that you don't have to go do a major reorganization to double, triple, quadruple the size of the system. You just, once you have a switch in there, you just add a few things and suddenly you've got twice as many, 3 times, 4 times as many inputs. You've got a second switcher cutting another show. You've got whatever it is you need is pretty easy to add if you start with the basic IP architecture. And that's been our goal in SNP and in 2110 in general. I'm interested to see some of these projects evolve to also use high dynamic range to shift 1080p, do 1080p productions, and then generate 1080i for local TV, local cable, however they're getting to market. There's all kinds of possibilities that are enabled by having a network-attached processing unit in the pipeline with all this, because then you can make a 1080i version, you can make a 720p version, you can do other things on the way out besides just turn it back into SDI. And that's really our goal with SNP, has been to put all of that processing stuff that people do to television onto the network. So you can take that camera, flip it, turn it into this video format, change the color, give people a shader control and let them actually adjust it, even if it's a camera that doesn't have any shading controls of its own. Sometimes people have legacy cameras that are there, but maybe they're rigged in some way in the facility that nobody wants to climb up there and fix it. Mm-hmm. Now, suddenly you have shading controls for that camera, even though it's older than anything else in the plant.
Well, I think also it takes advantage of when you're putting 2110 and a software-enabled switch together. Mm-hmm. You can mix formats, right? So you can have a graphic source coming in as 4K, and that's going to be your background canvas. Mm-hmm. And then maybe you're just bringing your cameras in as HD, and and that's transparent to you. But how you assign your inputs and outputs becomes quite easy too. So this is going to be a 12G, this is going to be a 3G. It's all good.
Yeah, and that's exactly the flexibility that people need, especially in these evolving situations. Every few weeks they might add a new camera, add a new display, add a thing. It's a very dynamic situation. The idea that, in television we used to think about you'd build a facility and then you'd operate it for 7, 8, 10 mm-hmm. years. That's not the case anywhere anymore. And it's especially not the case in small projects where all growth is evolution, week by week, month by month. If you go back and visit Cottonwood today, it's a different system than when we left it because they keep adding, mm-hmm. and that's the goal.
Well, and another piece to the evolution is once you've got that network processor with the SDI gateways, even as you add some more 2110 native edge devices on there, doesn't matter. You can add that to the same network. Or you could utilize some of the processing power in the SNP to decode JPEG-XS or something like that. So it's not something you're going to have to, that's going to become a doorstop later. You're going to be able to keep using it.
Oh yeah, no, the SNP, we have lots of projects where things start out as a gateway and then later they take that same unit and repurpose it into format conversions, color space conversions, multi-viewers, JPEG-XS encoding, decoding for interfacility. All kinds of possibilities, and we keep adding more licenses every day. Mm-hmm. So we just added a master control and branding license. So, in case you're using your KAIROS to make the main show, but you could make a little bug insert variant on the side with SNP, no problem. Now, the other thing we've introduced in the product line lately is next spring we're rolling out the SMPTE-XL. And XL is the same SNP, same software, same release chain, but doubles the number of ports in and out on the SDI side. So in the same footprint, you get twice as many SDI ins and outs to work with. So we can do 32 channels into the KAIROS and 32 out, or 8 UHDs each way if you're a UHD show. And we do it all at the same time, all in one box. Really Still direct connectable.
really looking forward to getting our hands on that. And
Yep.
thanks for coming by, John and Peyton. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you all.